Ladies and gentlemen, our next inductee, Merle Watson.
Some musicians prefer to take a background role instead of being in the spotlight. And that's the story of flat-picking guitarist Merle Watson, who spent his career playing with his famous father, bluegrass musician Doc Watson. Eddie Merle Watson was born on February 8, 1949 in Deep Gap, North Carolina. He is the son of Doc Watson and Rosa Lee Carlton. Merle Watson's name was a combination of Doc's favorite singers, Eddie Arnold and Merle Travis. Doc discovered Merle had taught himself to play guitar, and in 1965, at the age of 17, he became Doc's second guitarist. Merle and Doc alternated between the lead and rhythm roles during their performances. Their first album was Doc Watson and Son, and over the course of their career, they recorded 12 albums together. The father and son duo were nominated and won several Grammy Awards, including Best Ethnic or Traditional Recording for Then and Now in 1973.
If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me, love, and ease my pain?
And in 1979 for Best Instrumental Performance for the song Big Sandy Leather Britches. In 1985, Fret's magazine named Merle Watson the best finger-picking guitarist. Merle Watson died on October 23, 1985, at the age of 36 in Lenoir, North Carolina. In 1988, Doc founded Merle Fest in his son's memory. Merle Fest is one of the leading folk music festivals in the nation. It's held every year in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. The film Doc and Merle that chronicles their careers was released in 1996. Merle Watson remains a powerful influence in many forms of acoustic music, including blues, country, and bluegrass.
Yeah, take that thing. I'm gonna sit down by my Jesus when I lay my burden.
Here to accept the induction of Merle Watson is his daughter Karen, along with grandson Channing. Please welcome the Merle Watson family.
Daddy was a farmer and my mama did. She the only daughter of a
Good evening, everyone. My name is Channing Norris, and I'm Merle's grandson. Sadly, I didn't get to meet my grandfather since he passed away when my mother, Karen, was just 17 years old. Fortunately, I can say that I've always felt his presence through his music and through the positive impact he has made on my community. Merle's father, Doc, developed a unique style of music where Merle blended in his own touch to that style. Doc, Merle, and Richard, father, son, and grandson, shared this unique style. It was their own. A blend of folk, old-time mountain music, bluegrass, blues, and gospel. On behalf of my grandfather and the rest of the Watson family, we would like to express our deepest gratitude for this honorable induction of Merle Watson into North Carolina Music Hall of Fame. Congratulations to all the inductees here tonight, and thank you to all of the staff of North Carolina Music Hall of Fame for all their dedication and hard work. My family and I are so thankful to be a part of this great event. Thank you.
And now, performing on behalf of Merle Watson, North Carolina Music Hall of Fame, class of 2016 inductee and close friend of the Watson family, David Holt.
Maybe I'll start. Oh, yeah, would you hand me that guitar? That'd be great.
Merle was a good friend and a wonderful person. He was a 6'4" tall, and just a strong, powerful man. Very quiet, because Doc often took up most of the oxygen in a room, and Merle just learned to be, pretty quiet about things. But I remember one time he told me when he got mad at Doc, he wouldn't do anything really bad because he was Doc's protector. But what he would do, he had purchased a pair of blue socks and a pair of red socks, and he would take the two socks, and so they were mismatched in the pair, so Doc would have on one blue sock and one on red sock. That was his way of getting back at him. Pretty gentle, I'd say. And what most people don't realize was that Merle could play all the licks that Doc could play. The flat picking he learned from Doc. The finger picking he didn't actually learn from Doc. He learned that from Mississippi John Hurt, backstage at the many festivals he played. I asked Merle one time, because Doc didn't want to teach people how to play the guitar, because, when he was learning, if he wanted to sound like this, or sound like this, he wouldn't look up a chord book or ask anybody. He'd just fool around on the guitar until he had the sound that he wanted. And so he didn't like to show people because he had, learned all these non-standard chords that he had sort of made up himself. And he was blind, he couldn't see what you were doing, so he didn't teach people. And I said, Merle, I'd love to learn to play Ready for the Times to Get Better. And Merle had watched it so many times that he could break it down and play it for me. I've got to tell you, I've been racking my brain. I've got to find a way out. I'm getting tired of this continual rain. A change is coming, no doubt. It's been a too long time with no peace of mind, and I'm ready for the times to get better. A long, lonely time with no peace of mind, and I'm ready for the times to get better. You try to take from me what I cannot give. No happiness can I find. I've got a dream that I am trying to live. It's burning holes in my mind. It's been a too long time with no peace of mind, and I'm ready for the times to get better. A long, lonely time with no peace of mind, and I'm ready for the times to get better. So the first time I really played with Doc and Merle in a real sort of session, I'd met Doc back in '72, but in 1984, when I had the show on the Nashville Network called Fire on the Mountain, part of the show was I would play a tune or two with the guest, and so Doc and Merle and I were out there playing, and T. Michael Coleman playing bass, and Doc said, "What do you want to play?" I said, "I don't know, let's play some old fiddle tune, I'll play the banjo." He said, "Well, no, I'm going to have Merle play the banjo on the old song Whiskey Before Breakfast, because he can play a harmony, and I'll play the lead on the lead guitar." He said, "Why don't you play the harmonica or the bones or something like that?" I said, "Okay, well, okay, that sounds good." And so that's what that song sounded like without Doc or Merle. Let's just picture them right here. And we'll play a little bit of Whiskey Before Breakfast with one of the oldest instruments in the world, the bones and the harmonica. Merle was a wonderful banjo player too, and basically he pretty much taught himself to play the banjo, although he watched what Doc did and learned some of Doc's great old tunes like this one called The Cuckoo. Now it's because of this song that we know Doc, or that he was discovered really. Back in 1960, a couple of folklorists came down from New York, Ralph Rensler and Eugene Earle, and they were looking for an old man named Clarence Ashley, who had recorded the song The Cuckoo Bird back in 1929. And it was just a great version of the song, and they assumed that he would probably be dead by then. But when they got down to the Union Grove Festival, they asked around if anybody had ever heard of Clarence Ashley, and the fellow said, well, there he stands right there. And so they went over and they talked to Clarence and said that they wanted to make a record with him on Folkways Records and record that old song, The Cuckoo. And so they said, we're going to need a guitar player to play with you. And Clarence said, well, I know this fellow that I used to play with when he was 18. He's 40 now, but we'll go find him. His name is Doc Watson. He's the best player around here. So they went over to Doc's house, and you had to walk across a footlog. Now, Doc was blind, of course, but can you imagine every night, every day, walking across a footlog with a big creek below, being blind? He could do it. So they got to the house. It was just a little wooden house with no electricity, and Doc only had an electric guitar. So Ralph Rensler said to himself, now I've discovered some kind of hillbilly, rockabilly thing like that, and that's just not going to work with this old banjo piece. But they got in the truck. He didn't know how to get rid of him. He's thinking, how am I going to get rid of this guy without embarrassing him or anybody else? And they're riding in the back of the truck, and Ralph has a banjo, and he's playing this old song, The Cuckoo. And Doc says, let me see that banjo, son. And he took the banjo in hand and played a beautiful version of The Cuckoo and the old song Tom Dooley, and told Ralph how his family had known Tom Dooley and all the people involved in that old song. And Ralph realized he had found the real thing. And it was Ralph then later on began to manage Doc, and then of course Merle started playing with Doc, and the rest is history. Here's that old song called The Cuckoo that Merle played so beautifully. Well, I should say this though. When I was making my recording, it was the last recording that Merle ever made, called Reel and Rock, back in 1985. I said to Doc, I would love to record your old song, The Cuckoo Bird. He said, well, I've recorded that a bunch of times, son. Why don't you make up your own version of it? So in the recording studio that night, Merle and I just sat around and came up with this version of the song. Gonna build me a log cabin on the mountain so high so I can see the cuckoo as she goes on by. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles as she flies, and she never hollers cuckoo till the 4th day of July. There's just one thing, it's been a puzzle since the day that time began. Man's love for his woman and her sweet love for him. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles as she flies, and she never hollers cuckoo till the 4th day of July. Jack of diamonds, Jack of diamonds, well, I know you of old. You've robbed my poor pockets of my silver and my gold. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles as she flies, and she never hollers cuckoo till the 4th day of July. Thank you, folks, and thanks to Merle Watson. Thank you.
Truly a stirring performance by David Holt. There's nothing quite like getting to see one music legend perform in honor of another.